Before I begin this review, I need to make an apology to the creators of Orc Slayer and Dogchild. While I stand by my score, as both of those games are absolutely terrible, neither one of them is nearly as bad as the game known as Solbrain Knight of Darkness. Solbrain Knight of Darkness is a hack-and-slash game where you defeat waves of enemies, and then after completing a certain number of waves, you move on to the next stage. The game features 11 levels, with an okay amount of different types of enemies that you'll get to battle. You'll see the same styles of enemies over and over again throughout the course of your gameplay, but there is 11 levels of it, and plenty of enemies to fight. Those are honestly the positives I can say about the game. Music also isn't too bad, though I'm sure it's from something that's not this game, and the same goes for the actual monster designs. Once again, I'm pretty sure they're taken from other things. You have a regenerating health bar that thankfully comes back relatively quickly, and a magic bar that doesn't regenerate unless you die or end up finishing a stage. You have 2 attack buttons and 2 magic buttons, but they both do the same attack and they both do the same magic, so in reality you have an attack and a magic spell. The magic spell will wipe out any enemies within your vicinity, but of course once you run out of magic, you're not going to be able to use it anymore, and the attacks are going to be mostly what you're going to be doing to take out most of the foes. Hit detection is almost non-existent, as it almost uses an MMO style of attack system where you can swing from a pretty good distance away from an enemy and hit them, swing right up next to them and not do any damage. The game will just randomly sometimes show you that you've done some damage by showing you the number of damage that you've done to the enemy. Though every enemy that I battled throughout the course of the game usually died in just 2 hits, so honestly it made no sense to even include the amount of damage that you were doing to enemies, though I guess it's somewhat useful to see how much damage they're doing to you, but since it comes out so sporadically with the hit detection, it's almost hard to tell when you're actually getting hit unless you pay attention to the health bar in the upper left corner. There's no way to turn off the tutorial at all, so you'll always be seeing the control scheme on the far right side of the screen, so that's a plus. There's absolutely no way to dodge or block enemy attacks. Your only real defense is running away from the enemies, which they will follow you in great numbers, well, up until the amount of numbers that are possible. Most levels are allowed to spawn 8 enemies at a time, and a few others are able to spawn only 6 enemies at a time. Once you defeat an enemy, another one will spawn, until eventually you dwindle down the numbers all the way to 0 and complete the wave, and then the next wave will begin. Levels start off with only 2 waves, but quickly that starts to increase to 3, 4, 5, and 6 waves as you make it farther into the game. The monotony and the types of enemies are the same over and over again depending upon what level you are, and in fact there's no consistency. If you end up dying or game overing or do a level over again, you may end up fighting different enemies than you were fighting the previous time in the stage. And the same goes for the music. It's basically a generic soundtrack that ends up playing, and when you die and restart a level, you may end up getting another song from the playlist. There's also no way to jump, so climbing up mountains of any sort or getting over terrain is a real hassle, unless of course there's no hit detection on it, because there's a lot of times in the game where you can just kind of walk through rocks or walk through bridges or walk through the floor altogether. The other thing is, though, enemies can also get stuck consistently in these same types of issues, and if you're unable to find or defeat an enemy, you're stuck. You're screwed. Since there's no pause menu, there's no way to restart a level unless you end up getting killed. If there's no other enemies on screen to kill you, there's no way to kill yourself. So if there's an enemy that won't spawn, it's under the ground or in a rock, and won't seem to come out, there's no way you can attack it. Once in a while you'll get lucky and be able to hit it through the rock that it's stuck in, or sometimes use a magic spell and be able to hit it if it's close enough. But if it's a little bit out of your reach, or you're out of magic, well, you're out of luck. And you don't get to restart the level when you start the game over again after you shut it down. No! There's no saving in the game whatsoever. You have to start the game all the way over from level 1 again. It's awesome! The game features absolutely no cutscenes, no dialogue, story, or text really of any note. The only text really is the tutorial and the level that you're currently on. The game over screen as well. Heck, Orc Slayer was awful, but it at least had some text before and after levels, kind of give you a little bit of semblance of a story that was playing out. When it starts, you'll have a starry night sky kind of thing that's kind of showing you the stars moving forward. Eventually it freezes, for a good few seconds before finally going to the main title screen. The game company, you get to see their name twice because it's a Lightning Game Studio production and Lightning Game Studio presents. In fact, their main logo and the text for the game itself is actually a Legend of Zelda font that you can get online. In fact, I've even used it for a handful of reviews. Thankfully, the game didn't crash on me. I mean, I wish it would have. It would have given me an excuse to stop playing it earlier on, but then again, the game did break on me on a few occasions to the point that I had to give up and stop playing. Making it to the 5th level and then the 7th or 8th level the second time around, and like I said, there's no way to restart the level. You have to start the game all over again if it ends up getting stuck, or you want to end up quitting for whatever reason. There is no excuse for why this game is allowed to not only exist, but be available on the PlayStation 4. I know, there's a lot of terrible games made nowadays from Unity and on Steam because of just the free-for-all that is Steam. But to make it over to the PlayStation 4, to make it over to a console is almost inexcusable. I have played a lot of awful PS4 games like Dogchild, Orc Slayer, and Afro Samurai 2. In fact, that game got refunded to many people that ended up making a purchase for it. This game has no excuse not only to exist, but to be on the PS4 or any gaming system for that matter. Do not play it. Do not even consider buying it. Because guess what? It's not a free game. Oh, even for a free game, this wouldn't be acceptable. But no, they have the audacity to charge $13 for this mess of a game. And if you're one of the few unlucky ones like myself that end up buying it, which I am going to contact Sony to try to get a refund, because this game is not only bad, it's broken. It is absolutely broken. I can't believe I'm actually doing this, but I'm giving this game a 0. A 0 out of 10. No excuse for this game existing. None whatsoever. I know some people out there like bad games, including myself, but there's no reason to play this. Even if it's given to you, do not play it at all. I don't care if they end up patching it in the future, which I really don't suspect there's gonna be a patch. I'm sure this is what we're gonna get stuck with for this game, but even if they did, I'm not going back to it. There is no reason to even consider for a second or an iota just to even look at it, let alone actually play it. Anyway, guys, that's going to wrap up this review. I'd like to thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.